Welcome. Today we are seeing part 2 of complicated radical equations. I have a little joke for you guys here. Just read it. Make sure you take notes. This first part you have seen before. The steps are solved. That doesn't change. And just a reminder that when you are checking for solutions, you're checking to see if you also have extraneous solutions by substituting or replacing your answer back into the equation to see if it is a solution. If it isn't a solution, then that's when we have the case of an extraneous solution. So we're going to see an example together. Hopefully this will help you. One of the things just to review, when we have x to the 1/2, so I'm just going to end up, so if I have x to the 1/2 power, remember that that is equal to the square root of x. Okay, so those mean the same thing. If I have x to the 1/2 is equal to square root of x. They're the same thing. And the reason we're reviewing this is because now we have this problem where we have 7 minus v to the 1/2 power equals v minus 7. So it's just easier if we end up rewriting it in terms of a square root. So putting the square root of 7 minus v equals v minus 7. So our step number 1 was to isolate the radical, and right now the radical has been isolated. And now we are going to eliminate the radical. And so what do we do to eliminate our radical? Well, one of the things is we have a squared, or to the 1/2, we end up doing 2. And that is to both sides. And one thing that is important is, remember, you see how I put this parentheses around v minus 7? Because it's this whole thing is being squared. Okay, so once I squared that, then we have just 7 minus v is equal to v minus 7 squared. And when I have this squared, remember, we're going to go through this shortcut. When I have v minus 7 squared, we're going to go through the following shortcut where I take my first term. The first term is squared, so I write v squared. Then I end up bringing minus, because we're multiplying v times negative 7, which is negative 7v, times 2, and that makes it minus 14v. And then our last term that we have here is negative 7, and then we square it. Negative 7 squared is going to be a positive 49. Bring down what's on the left side. And now what do? We combine like terms from the opposite ends, okay? From the opposite sides. What I mean by that is I have a 7 on the left side, and I have a 49 on the right side. So what do I have to do to be able to combine them? I have to move that 7, and since it's a positive 7, we're going to do a negative 7. Same thing with the v. It's a negative v, so what are we going to do? We're going to do a positive v. And what does that do? 7 minus 7, that is 0. Negative v plus v is also a 0. And I am left with 0 is equal to, now bring down the v squared. Negative 14v plus v is minus 13v. And 49 minus 7, that is plus 42. So now what do we have? We have an equation, it's a quadratic equation, and what are we going to do to be able to solve it? We're going to factor it. So this is where we take a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 13, and c is equal to 42. And remember, when we make our table where we multiply a times c, and in that case that is 42, but the sum has to be our value of b, which is negative 13. And the only factors of 42, which I'm able to add and get negative 13, is 6 and 7, because 6 times 7 is 42. The way I get negative 13 is both of them are negative. So I rewrite this. My factor form then is b minus 6, b minus 7 is equal to 0. And so what do we do to solve? We set out b minus 6 equal to 0. Take my first binomial and take my second binomial, same thing, set it equal to 0. So if I solve in the first one, we do a plus 6 on both sides and we get v equals positive 6. In the next case, we add 7. So we get v equals 7. So now we got to check these are both solutions, or if one of them or neither of them are extraneous solutions. And what do? We replace. So let's replace the 6 first back into our original equation. And we had that square root of 7. So we have square root of 7. V was 6. That's what we found. Is equal to 6 minus 7. Okay, so we're replacing that. Square root of 7 minus 6, that is square root of 1. And on the right side, we have 6 minus 7, which is negative 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 1 does not equal negative 1. So this is not true. So what type of solution do we have here? The v equals 6 is an extraneous solution. Okay. And now we're going to check for v equals 7. So we go back up. Check for v equals 7. So we're going to plug in square root of 7 minus 7 is equal to 7 minus 7. 7 minus 7 is 1. So radical 1 is equal to 7 minus 7 is 0. Well, 7 minus 7 is not 1, it's 0, silly. Square root of 0 is 0. So 0 is equal to 0. So what does that tell you? That v equals 7 is a solution to this problem. So in this case, this is an actual solution. V equals 6 is an extraneous solution. Go ahead and try some of the homework problems. If you have any questions, feel free to remember. If you need to go back to take some notes and refresh, go ahead and do it. Take care.